Welcome, everybody, to Week 17 of the Hot Route 14-game main slate, the biggest slate of the year. All games being played tomorrow. Normally, a Week 17 is kind of irrelevant to us, but this year, being that we have an 18-game season and 7 teams getting into the playoff, I actually kind of think Week 18 will probably, for the most part, I wouldn't say quite like a normal week, but a majority of the teams will probably either be fighting for something or will know pretty clear and dry who's going to play backups or whatever. I don't think we'll run into what we've seen in past years just because there's so many teams alive, especially in the AFC. This week, like I said, 14 big games on Sunday. We're a couple hours away from the semifinals in college football. A lot of big hits last night. For the Gup's Corner community, I chopped both the $2.22 and the $20 last night. So that was a good day to get things rolling into today. Some big bowl slates. If you haven't checked it out, when this comes out, you probably have about an hour left. You can go check those out. Bowls tomorrow, 14 games Sunday, Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, rolling into next week. And then PGA is back. We'll get into that a little bit later as well. Joining me as usual, Mr. Ryan, how you doing on this Friday afternoon?
Doing nice, man. It's nice, not snowing out or anything, so I'll take it. Went for a walk with the family earlier. It was fun. Ready to just kind of break down this 14-gamer. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in here. And I know, you told me to find a sleeper and stuff like that. I think I found multiple this week, so we'll dive into that. But how are you doing? You're the one with the Rona, so I want to make sure you're doing all right.
Yeah, if you're not in the community or hadn't been in Slack and all that, I did catch the virus finally. So I'm on diet. Well, I guess symptoms started almost a week ago, so I'm almost out of it. Been a grind this week. Didn't do any pods for that reason. Obviously, this is my first one. Can I combo this up as a coin flip as well? It is New Year's Eve. I will not be doing any partying. I'll be watching college football and then probably watch some movies or something with the wife. Get up tomorrow and New Year's 6 day or New Year's Eve 6 or New Year's 6, whatever they call it. Bunch of bowl games tomorrow, which I always enjoy. I'm ready to get to feeling better. Besides the Rona, our weather is just, it's crazy this year. I think right now we're 64 degrees, and by this time tomorrow we're going to be 80 to 85 degrees colder. So below freezing wind chills by this time tomorrow, which is just crazy. Doesn't help with all the sickness as well, even without the virus. We've been battling that hot, cold for many times, but definitely looking forward to getting better and getting a little PGA back in. And we're probably 6-7 weeks away from NASCAR kicking off, but I know you've already started dropping some content, so really looking forward to 2022. Have more on some of those things at the end of the pod as well. You can use HOT to get 20% off any package. Includes a 7-day risk-free trial. Obviously a tremendous time to check us out. You get bowl games the rest of this week, big slate NFL, and then PGA's back. So now's a good time to, if you want to check out our PGA tools and the Green Machine optimizer, do it all for free over the next 7 days. You do it today, that's going to get you through the start of the Tournament of Champions next week for PGA. So you'll kind of get to try out everything. NBA still going on daily as well. So looking forward to turning the calendar. Still got plenty of football, but I'm kind of getting excited for golf and NASCAR, which I became more of a fan of this year, mainly due to your content. But I am looking forward to all of that once we kick off next week. Rate and review us on iTunes. I will be doing some big giveaways as we start kicking off NASCAR and March to the Masters. The Players' Championship's been treated in DraftKings the last year or two as a major, so if they do that again, we'll do some big giveaways for that. Like and subscribe on YouTube. That's another easy way to get in. When you leave comments, you get into the weekly drawings and also the big drawings. In today's comments, tell me what your New Year's Eve plans are or what you did if you happen to be listening to this tomorrow or Sunday morning. Underdog, link is in the description. The Gauntlet Best Ball Playoff is back. $1 million in prizes, $200K to first. It's $25 per entry. Use the code GUP, get a dollar for dollar match up to $100. So if you put $100 in, that'll give you $200. You can put 8 entries into that big $1 million pot. It's about 18% full when I looked this morning. I know people in the GC Warrior room have already been talking about strategy back and forth. So we'll have that covered as that. A lot of people will wait, and I get it, until the playoffs are kind of more known. But there is strategy to be had now if you want to go in there and do some drafting or look in the GC Warrior room and check that out. I got booted from all my best ball mains last week. Did you survive any of yours?
Nope, booted. So last week was my final week. It was tough watching it. I played some teams that were, these guys are scoring over 200 points. So it was, I mean, that's the name of the game, though. It's tough to move on. And congratulations to anyone in our community that moved on. I know, we have, I think, the Dirty Sheik in Slack. He moved on in a big one. So we're all rooting for him too.
Yeah, and if you don't know what best ball is, or you've never done it, or you got in late, it's a good time to hop on that app now, do the playoff one, and kind of get used to what it's all about. It's a little bit different for playoffs, but certainly get you used to the product, and then they'll have the new best balls out normally about May or so of next year. And we'll be covering that throughout the summer. You guys are here for the big 14-game slate. Only 2 big spreads on this one, which is kind of nice. The rest are mostly in that 3 to 7 point range. You do have 10 home favorites, which always, I don't want to say concerns me, but it definitely throws up potential either public smashes, or being contrarian can go a long way when you have that many home favorites in this big of a slate. Always this time of year, we're going to look at weather concerns. The only 2 games I saw before popping on here was Seahawks, Lions, light rain and wind. There's not a lot I would like about that game in general, but that is one. And then the Giants, Bears, another one. Probably don't really care about too much, but wind concerns there. Other than that, I didn't see much, as of now, but obviously we'll update that throughout the weekend. We're going to go game by game. Some of these we may spend a minute on. Some we'll spend 4 or 5. There's a lot of them. Probably the biggest deal, and you'll see in my ownership stuff I put out already, and I'll keep that updated, that, when you have 14 games, it's just going to be spread out. I mean, I have the highest game in which is the Bucks versus Jets, but most of it's the Bucks. And then outside of that, everything's, 72% to 36% total game ownership between the other 13 games. So a lot of different places to go and attack this week. You really don't have to worry about, it's not going to be hard to be unique or contrarian by any means. There's certainly going to be some smash spots that people will go to. But definitely when you have this big of a slate, and ownership will be really spread out, you don't have to worry about, too much chalky stuff. And there's a ton of value. I think you can remind, I know Kirk Cousins went on today. He's out, which is a Sunday Night Football game, so it didn't affect it. I think I saw maybe Gibson. Was that the only other one that maybe went on?
Yeah, Gibson's out. So I think on the COVID list, like /IR, whatever that is. So he's not playing, though. So Patterson will be starting there.
Okay, so as of now, outside of what my rankings are, those are the only 2 changes. Well, Gibson's only 1 change. Kurt won't matter until I do the article for Sunday Night Football anyways. So we'll kick it off with Jaguars at Patriots, 28.75, 13.25. I don't like much about the Jaguars in general. Certainly not on the road in New England in December, or early January by the time this kicks off. Ramondre is going to be back. You kind of mentioned that. Harris has been doing well, but he got banged up. The Jags the defense isn't, I guess it's better than, I want to say better than most. It's not horrible, but it can still give up points. But the Patriots I don't look at them as like a big scoring threat. But when you get a 28.75 team total, do we have to get some exposure into this game, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think more for tournaments, though. Like, I know Myers might be talked up a little bit, even for cash this week, and I don't necessarily hate that. He's just so cheap at 5,100, and he's definitely the number 1 target in the offense. But I mean, if Harris can go, and it looks like he's practicing in a limited capacity, so I think they're both going to play. I just think they really just pound the ball all day. This is a must-win game at home for Belichick. I mean, this is like, I think the defense will be ready. They'll be in good field position all day. Maybe Myers seems he can never score a touchdown, but maybe he could here. But I really just like the running backs. If I'm going to take a flyer, I would rather take Stevenson, who's fully healthy, where Harris has that hamstring that's been nagging him. So, if he has a game like the Bills a few weeks ago, like 3 weeks ago now, if he comes up lame on that hammy and Stevenson takes over, I mean, now you got the Patriots starting running back for 5,300 at home against the Jags. So again, we don't play for injuries, but if I'm going to take a flyer on one, it'd be tournament only, and I think I'm leaning Stevenson as of now.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I definitely think if we can get some clarity on that running back, and if it is going to be him, $300 is a nice price. Great matchup. They're going to run the ball, especially. I don't want to say they want to keep the game out of Mac Jones' hands. He certainly can do well, but Belichick's going to take the easiest path to winning, and I think he knows he can run the ball all day on them, and he's not going to have to worry about his defense giving up much, at least in my opinion. I agree with that. I had the Patriots marked as one of my plays as potential. People still shy away from spending up a defense at times, and more times than not, I don't do it a lot, but when I do it, it definitely can pay off. And I think there's enough value and money out there this week that you could pay up for Patriots and be fine with it, or even a Buccaneers. We'll get to that one.
The thing they're doing too now, which is different, is like, for a while there was a lot of defenses in the low 2000s that were viable. You could play them and maybe they'd score 6 to 10 points, something like that, and you'd feel fine with it. Now, I mean, like, there's a lot of defenses that are just terrible down there. Like, I wouldn't even, like, this is one of those weeks where I don't even consider any of the defenses 2,600 and below. So if I'm going to be paying, 3,000 or more for defense anyways, I don't mind going up to the Patriots.
Yeah, I agree with that. Next game, one of the bigger games on the slate, DFS wise and just all in general. Chiefs at Bengals. Chiefs 5.5 point favorite on the road. I don't know how much I agree with that. I know they're clicking a little bit, but that puts them, if we give 2.5 for Bengals home field advantage, you're talking close to a 11 point favorite at home on the Bengals. I don't know if I see that. It's definitely one of my handicap areas. Especially, I know we saw the Bengals coming off an awesome game last week. I had plenty of them. I think you dodged out on Burrow late, regrettably, but Brady would. At the time, it wasn't an easy choice for sure. I did go Burrow. I kind of stud on that all week. I did well. I had a really good main slate. Just didn't get much going in Showdown and college football bowl season up until yesterday. It's just been a grind with all these COVID and who's in, who's out. You get that with NFL. The nice thing about NFL though is we do get pretty much solid clarity at least 90 minutes before a game start. College football, we're scattering to find beat writers and still sometimes you miss something and it can kill you. But this game will probably be popular. You think a lot of scoring. And I can see that. I definitely don't mind the Cincinnati side. If people, Chiefs are a big public team. If they think, they're going to beat up on them. Bengals, they did good last week, but look who they played. Where are you at in general with the game? And then do you think the Bengals come in under the radar or people go to them after last week's performance?
Yeah, and one thing I noticed just looking at the article here, I got to add Mixon's name on here. He's actually the piece I probably like the most on that side of the ball. I just think it's a big wake-up call, for the Bengals passing game here. The Chiefs' defense is not the Ravens' defense. The Ravens' defense is like dead last in every passing category you can look at, whereas the Chiefs are like 11th in QB rating allowed. They're 14th in yards allowed per catch. It's just a much tougher matchup here. And then, like you said, you're at home. You want to keep the game close, keep the ball out of Mahomes' hands. I think that's what Mixon does. And they're a great matchup on the ground. The Chiefs' run defense is terrible. So that's where I would attack them. Will they? I don't know. But I think a lot of people will kind of chase this Bengals passing attack. And so maybe the good pivot is to go to Mixon. And then Mahomes has all his targets available. So perhaps that's why they have, such a large, Vegas total here and everything. But I don't mind stacking it, if you can get Mahomes and either Hill or Kelsey and then run it back with Mixon. That's probably my favorite. I don't think it'll be that popular because I don't think Mixon will be too popular this week.
Yeah, there's some definite chalk on the slate, but by and large, things are going to be, spread out. I got Mixon around 9%, which at 7,500, makes sense. But that's good ownership leverage. several double digit ownership running backs right there around him, but probably mainly price. I don't think people want to pay up for him this week with all the options on the board. And then we'll get to the Cooper Cup, pricing and what do we do there. But I agree with all that. I'm probably staying away from the Chiefs though on the road. I just have seen Mahomes. I don't want to say flat. I think he'll do well. I actually think it could go more of a shootout, but I think a lot of people are going to jump more on the Chiefs. So we've talked about this in the past. If I can get a unique side with Burrow, Jamar Chase, even Higgins, or one or the other, like you said, you got Uzma at 3,300 is a great cheap piece, and then run it back with a Hill or Kelsey. I think I can get in that game environment and be so much different than everybody else that I don't mind doing that. And you just got, like you said, you got to, Mixon could be a great play to mix up that deal. If you go Chiefs and run it back with Mixon, that could be another way. If you really die hard on the Chiefs this week, if you run it back with Mixon, I don't think many people do that. And there's enough cheap pieces on the slate this week to kind of make that stuff work. Who do you like more out of Tyreek and Kelsey this week?
I think I like Kelsey more this week. I just like the $1,000 savings. Hill came out and said too he was still just dead tired from COVID, so he just did what he could last week. I don't know. That kind of scares me again for this week. How much conditioning did he get in? Is he going to be 100%? I don't know. I really like Kelsey for 7,300, and it gives you that unique, double tight end stack if you're going to look at Uzoma too in a game stack. So that's a good way to be different.
For sure. Yeah, I'm always a fan of the double tight end, especially in the same game at times. Eagles at the Washington football team, 25.75 at 21.25 Eagles, 3.5 or so point road favorites. Washington, man, they look good. They kind of peaked there, and then they've kind of fallen off lately, battling injuries and all that kind of stuff. I think Heineke is back this week, at least the last time I saw. Obviously been checked out for a little bit. I don't think it'll matter too much. I think the Eagles are, they're still alive. They're fighting. Hurts comes and goes. It's frustrating to watch this offense at times. I know we've talked about it live while watching the game because they'll have success doing something, and it's like they almost make a point to try to do what's not working. Like you mentioned, Gibson out, so that opens up some value there. The Eagles D is good. They can be ran on a little bit. Is this a hot game for you? Or typically NFC East in the late December, January turned into kind of one of those slobber knocker slugfest. 2017 I could easily see. But the Eagles do have firepower, and if Hurts is on, certainly Goddard's been doing great. I can see any of those guys working this week, and I don't hate the Eagles D depending on who we see at quarterback for Washington.
Yeah, that's what I'm more just on the Eagles side here. Like you said, I think Washington's just kind of falling apart right now. And then putting Gibson on the IR too is another that's icing on the cake. They're just struggling. It's been a struggle since week one. They lost Fitzpatrick quick. They lost Logan Thomas quick. The Samuel, signing has been a total bust. It's just been a rough year for him. And then Gibson's been playing with the broken shin all year. So I don't know. I think this time of year, I think they're beat up mentally as well. So I really like Philly here. Hurts, though, and I keep saying this every week, I always think he has a lower floor than most say. I just don't. It's hard for me to trust him. 6,600 is nice. You can play him in a tournament. Like, even the last time they played Washington, if they just decide to give someone else the ball on those 1 and 2 yard, carries on the goal line, his day's not that great at all. So the big news here would be if Howard misses at running back. If he misses, then Boston Scott's in play at 4,900. I'd see Gainwell kind of mix in on the passing downs as well, but Scott's the guy who can pound those TDs in. We'll have to wait and see on Jordan Howard.
Yeah, that's something to keep an eye on because I think if Howard's out, Scott could be another good play at 4,900. Several good running back plays this week could wind up being cheap, especially if we get more news as we head towards Sunday. The 2 of the 3 we already talked about is, if Harris is out, now you get a $5,300 Ramondre in a great spot. Scott, if he winds up kind of being the workhorse here, could be in a great spot. Cheap as well. And there's, a few running backs I want to pay up for. We'll get to a little bit later. But you can put them in the flex as well. Bucks at Jets, 30 at 16. So 14-point road favorites for the Buccaneers. My only concern here, obviously there's nothing I want to do with the Jets, is Tampa doesn't care about, style points. They're on the road. Do they not? I don't know. I never doubt Brady. I just wonder, could it turn into a big running game? Jones definitely does Brady throw enough if they get up quick and early? But that my comma pause there is, I do think he's still viable and still probably wants to win the MVP. So it doesn't hurt me to think he'll go put on a show, and maybe they're up 28-7 at half or something like that. The Jets have been scrappy and fighting, similar to the Lions, so I could see it being somewhat competitive for a little while. There's a lot of other spots on the slate that I like, and this is looking like one of the most chalky teams. I may have some, but I'll have to be unique. Where are you at in general? I know you're a big Brady guy this year altogether. You going back to the well again?
Yeah, I think the chalky spots here and why it boosts everything on the Bucs is that the Ron Jones and AB love, and it's all good. Like, I think you start your cash lineup this week with Ronald Jones, you just plug him in and go on from there. Same with AB if he's going to play. The prices are just way too cheap for what they can do in this matchup. AB's got some stuff he can play for too, some big dollar incentives. So if Brady wants to try and force feed him to get him those, this is a good spot to do that. So if you want to be different, I think that's going like the Brady, Evans, Gronk type of route and just hope he's just throwing touchdowns to those guys. Gronk too, especially after a total bust last week. No one's going to want to click that again for 6,200 in a game where they think, the script will be them just running all day. So Gronk, I think, is like the low-owned, awesome piece here if you want to be different in a tournament. But, again, I will not shy away from Jones or Brown. The news here is Brown didn't practice and Evans is back. But Evans is back off COVID, so I wonder if he's going to have the Tyreek type thing where he's, a little slowed by it. That might keep his ownership down. If he's not, I obviously love him here, especially if Brown's going to miss the game. So we have to track this one too. But again, I would start my cash team with Ronald Jones, even tournament team. He's just a good play no matter what. A big floor here, big ceiling. I do love it.
Yeah, I like him, and I think he'll be one of the higher owned. I have him top 5 in ownership right now. But again, so many options on the slate that, we're talking about top 5. He's still probably going to be 15 to 18%. We're not talking, 26% or something like we could see in some weeks. So there's ways to get there. And again, I like the Bucs D. I know you got him written up as a tournament play. I don't think many will go there. We'll see. And more times than not, I think it can pay off on these and be a little different. I get it. I know it's hard to, but these last probably, I'd say 6 showdowns, a lot of them have been decided by defensive plays, touchdowns, and all kinds of stuff. So especially you get this late in the year, you get a team that's just not very good in general. It can get away for you in a hurry, so I don't mind adding a Bucs D into some of the stacks there. Dolphins at Titans, 18.75, 22.25. Titans a slight home favorite. They get good news that it looks like King Henry will be back in time for the playoffs, but they do not have him this week, and I still maintain that they keep winning. I give them that, but Tannehill just isn't the same without him. I don't have much love there. I like the Dolphins in general. I think betting-wise, it's a decent spot to look at the Dolphins because everybody in the pods I have listened to and stuff is, look who the Dolphins have played. Look who they have played. At this point in time, it's football. It's NFL. We're week 17. I get it, but they've been doing well. I don't mind, you like Waddle, Gesicki. The Dolphins D, like you said, Tannehill's been prone to giving up sacks, which is important, and you can always get turnovers. And so, this D's probably been one of, if not the best D over the last 8 weeks. I know the quarterbacks they played, and everybody talks about it, but they're not. It's not like they're going to be some offensive juggernaut this week. If Henry was here, totally different because you have to respect that even more. But they don't have to load up the box; they can get pressure without blitzing and force Tannehill into some bad decisions. So I kind of agree with you. I do agree with you. I just don't know, is there anything else? Do we look at a Tua or anything like that, or we just stick with the offensive pieces and probably the defense?
I just think we stick with the offensive pieces. The Titans too, Julio hasn't done shit this year, but he's not playing. And now A.J. Brown missed practice. So I don't know if he's going to go. And Tannehill, he's struggling anyways. But if he doesn't have A.J. Brown out there, that makes me like the Dolphins even more. Waddle needs like 6 catches, I think, to break the rookie record. That's something I think he can do in this game. And then I have no problem going back to Parker. Parker averaged 8 targets a game before the dud last week. I just think that's a total fluke. I don't think that that's going to happen here. The way you beat the Titans is through the air. You can't just run right over them, especially on the road here. And they are dogs. I mean, and the Dolphins' pass rate is very high this year. So I just think that Parker and Waddle are both in play. Parker's only 5,200. That's too good for me to pass up. He'd be like one of those sleepers I mentioned earlier. That's one of them right there. But yeah, I don't know if I really want to look at Tua to kind of go all in on this, but I like the Dolphins here.
Yeah, and you got, I mean, the AFC's just, I think there's 11 teams that are either 7-7-1, 7-8, 8-7, 9-6. One of those three. So all within 2 games, you got 11 teams right there. Chiefs kind of breaking away a little bit, and Titans a little bit, but they're only a game up on the Colts, albeit they beat the Colts twice head to head. So Colts are going to have to leap them there. But the Colts are currently in the playoffs at a 9-6. So definitely a very big game in the AFC right here. All of them are, but this one's a huge one. I don't want to say it's lose or go home or anything, because Titans are still leading the division, but the Dolphins going 9-7 would be huge for them as opposed to 8-8. Not that none of these guys don't care about playing. I'm just saying it's an important game. It's going to be a physical game. I agree with you on everything you said right there. I like both those weapons. And then, I like Parker. I played him last week. He was a bust. That could be a good one to look at as well.
The other thing about the defense, too, real quick, is just that the Titans, Tannehill has taken the 2nd most sacks in the league, and the Dolphins blitz at the highest rate. So that was one other reason why I like the defense. Just want to mention that quick for the listeners.
Yeah, and they're good. I mean, that's a good, fair price for those. A lot of people just skip these Ds and they go straight for, like you said, the 2,000 or 2,100. I'm like, for $700, I'd rather take, the Dolphins at 28 than come down to one of these super cheap Jets or whatever and hope and wish, when I got a good feeling that this defense will get some sacks and potentially create turnovers. And then it's not that expensive. It's still $2,800.
Yeah.
Raiders at Colts. Just talked about the Colts there. Raiders have not done well as of late. They keep winning, but kind of ugly, and they're still right there. They're 8-7 with the Chargers. On the road here in Indianapolis is always tough. Colts are about 8-point favorite. Probably the biggest news is waiting to see if Wentz, clears everything. I don't know how much it matters, because I absolutely love Jonathan Taylor this week. I'm not going to get too cute on it. I think he could run all over the Raiders at will. And I'm like you. There's not much in this game I like. You have a few any format options up on the site, but I like Taylor. I could maybe go a little some of the cheap pieces like you mentioned, Alley Cox or Colts, but I'll have plenty of Taylor and kind of leave the game at that.
Yeah, Taylor rates out really well for me this week. I mean, not like that's a surprise being who he is, but when I do the matchup prep sheet, there's only a few running backs on there that kind of hit all the criteria and still are expected to get over 80% of the touches out of the backfield. And he's just like so far away ahead of everyone else like that. I love him. The big question for me is in cash, like I don't really want to jam in Taylor and Cup, so I have to choose one or the other. Normally I'd always choose the running back there, but this record season that Cup's having makes it really hard for only $500 more in a matchup against the Ravens to not go there. I'm sure we'll talk about that game there too, but and then Mo Alley Cox Doyle's not practicing, hasn't practiced yet this week. If he misses, that's just a punt tight end at 2,800. He's a big body down near the red zone too, so if they use a little play action with Taylor or something, he gets open, maybe he catches a touchdown. I don't mind that punt, like the Colts D. But I did want to ask you, I guess we could do it before we get to Rams, if you had a preference between Taylor or Cup.
Yeah, for me it's going to be Taylor. A little bit cheaper. I get it. I mean, Cup's normally I'm the same way. It'd always be the running back because you're guaranteed touches and all that. But I mean, you're not too much shy from saying you're guaranteed to get Cup, 8 to 10, not only targets but probably catches, because he catches everything that goes his way. I certainly don't see the Ravens solving the puzzle that is Cooper Kupp this week. So I could see it. I guess if the Colts, they're big favorites, are dominating, that's only going to increase Taylor. If somehow the Rams get up big or in a hurry and Kupp isn't too involved, it could take away from him. So I guess just for
That's a good
cash,
point.
because I always think of safety. Like I feel like the floor on Taylor is a little bit better.
Yeah.
It's close. It certainly is close, and maybe there's some super cheap, late COVID stuff opens up and you can smash both in. But that'd be a unique build in cash to try to get both those guys in there. But pretty much isolated there for this game. Not much else to talk about. Not much to talk about on this next game either. Giants at Bears, 22-16. Giants a 6-point home favorite. That pretty much sums up all this game you need to know when the Bears are a 6-point favorite. Yeah, I don't know if I'll touch anybody in this game. There's just too many options on the slate. Now we're talking about potential strong wins. I could see Montgomery just getting a lot of volume just in the situation, but that's pretty much. And maybe Bears, like you said, Bears D. I don't mind that either, just because of the situation.
Yeah, for me, it's Montgomery. I don't think he's a bad cash play at 6,500. It's just with 14 games on this slate, it's kind of amazing. Like I just don't project the running backs really to have a lot of workhorse roles. They're just kind of fallen out of favor lately. So like I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 backs out of all of them that I would project 80% of the touches out of the backfield. Montgomery is one of them. So for cash, like you said, get that safe floor. He touched it 28 times last week. It's a great matchup at home here against the Giants. Their offense is just such shit. They just give other teams great field position all day. So I don't mind Montgomery. And you mentioned that weather too. That could force a few more touches his way on the ground. Bears D. I added Allen Robinson in as a tournament play. It's so weird seeing him at 3,800. But with weather and some uncertainty at QB, I'd have to play a lot of lineups to start mixing him in.
Yeah, it is weird seeing it, but man, has he disappeared? I don't know if there's internal there with him and the coach or what, but yeah, for me, because it's a 14-game slate and there's so much going on, so many better options on the slate. But I don't mind the Bears D or Montgomery as tournament options.
One thing that I did notice was Berrios might be chalky at 3,700, and I will play Robinson over Berrios until I die. So that's just I don't like Berrios. I don't think he's any good. And so for $100 more, if you just get a game where Robinson, tries his hardest, I just think I'd rather have that every time. And it seems like it's going to come in at much lower ownership.
No, I agree with that for sure. Certainly, I didn't even look at is Berrios. Let me see where I got him. I mean, I know
there's like no value this week. So the fact that Crowder's out just means that people are going to play him. And I don't know, like he had a kick return for a touchdown that made him, relevant last week or whatever. Yeah. So I don't like it.
I agree with that for sure. Falcons at Bills, 29.5-15. Bills big home favorites. I've been called the anti-Bill guy from a lot of people. It's like not meanly, but they know that I've been off of them. I'm still not big on them. Certainly a great matchup here. I wonder what I got them as a team because a lot of people just love Josh Allen. I know you do as well. 51%. They're right there in the middle after you get past the Bucks for team ownership. I don't mind Allen here. They do. You go back a couple weeks and they made a solid effort to get Singletary involved, but it still seems like their MO is to throw the ball at all possible. Weather doesn't look to be like an issue. I could see some mini stacks with Buffalo. I know people don't normally hear me say that, but I don't mind it. But I like Pitts will be the one Falcon that I do like because he's close to, you mentioned record earlier, he's close to the tight end rookie receiving record. I think yards. It's either yards or catches. I can't remember. But so maybe they make a concerted effort there. They still got one more game. I think he'll get it no matter what. But maybe Pitts as a one-off. That's it for me on the Falcons. And I agree with Allen, Diggs, Knox if you want to combo up there. And potentially the Bills D as well.
Yeah, I think the ownership stays lower on the Bills just because you can't figure out who to stack with Allen. So in situations like that, I mean, Diggs' price at 7,900, Allen at 8,000. I mean, that's a tough one to swallow when there's a lot of value on the board here, and Diggs' volume kind of fluctuates. But I don't mind it here. If you're playing tournaments, they're going to be lower owned than they probably should be in this crazy good matchup. So we've seen Allen before focus on Diggs, get him his 2 touchdown game. And if there's a time to do that, it can be here. And now you have a kind of muddy wide receiver room with Sanders, Beasley, Davis, McKenzie, all these guys fighting for playing time behind Diggs. So the two constant guys there, Diggs and Knox. So if I'm going to look anywhere, it'd be Allen with either Diggs or Knox, and then come back with Pitts, like you said. He's like 128 yards short of the record.
No, I agree with that. I'm surprised you're always on your boy Beasley, so I'm surprised you don't want to give him a little bit of love. But there is a lot of
that McKenzie game. I mean, I don't know if that elevates McKenzie now. I mean, that was a hell of a performance, so I don't know what they're going to do.
No, I agree with that. And like you said, a big slate. You got plenty of options. Stick to what we know, and here he's definitely going to look to get Diggs involved, and Knox and him seem to have a tight relationship all year. That those are much more comfortable plays than the other ones. I mean, like I said, maybe Pitts from Atlanta, and that's probably it for me. Tough road game for them to go up to Buffalo. Rams at Ravens. You mentioned it a few times. 25 to 21.5. Some consider this. This looks like the potential public bus game of the week. Everybody's trying to figure out why is Rams only a 3-4 point favorite. As a sharp, when you're looking at a sharp handicap, I would assume most would say the play here is the Ravens at home because nothing about this game screams to you about Ravens, even if Lamar plays. And Huntley's back. He got pulled off the list today, so and he's played all right, and the Rams just haven't played great. I mean, even last week, it was an ugly win. They get a special teams touchdown. Probably the big question, and you already kind of mentioned a little bit, is Cooper Kupp. Do we spend the $9,500 on a wide receiver? We can start there. I do like Andrews, like you said. Huntley had an eye for him for sure. His first start. Lamar likes him in general. Don't know who's going to start based on the video we've seen. It looks like I would expect Huntley to get the nod. He's potential. I didn't even look at his price, but they could wind up having to throw a lot. There's a lot of weapons in this game. I don't mind doing some mini stacks, and then the Ravens are so isolated that you can go Andrews, Huntley. Huntley can do it with his legs like Lamar. Maybe throw a little Hollywood, but I'm not as big on Stafford. He didn't look great. He didn't look great last week because I feel like I don't want to say it's turning into a Devontae Adams situation, but there's no running upside with him, and I feel like I can get all my usage out of Stafford by just playing Kupp and going with the cheaper quarterback, whether it be Huntley or someone else on the board. What about you?
Yeah, it's tough because the Raven matchup is so good. I mean, like we just saw with the Bengals, and I don't know, because Stafford's kind of played bad lately, I don't know if many people will run there. Whereas, that's just the nut matchup in the pass game right now is you play every quarterback versus the Raven secondary. I think Kupp and OBJ and Jefferson, is a slight downgrade maybe from the Higgins, Chase, Boyd, matchup that they saw last week. And Burrow's playing better than Stafford, right now. But the matchup, I don't know. So, like, Kupp's 9,500, we just talked about that. I probably am with you, after hearing your explanation on Taylor. Just like the floor a little more there. But I really like OBJ. That was another one of my sleepers this week. I just love the matchup. He's running these awesome routes near the goal line and just all over. So if Stafford is on, and if the secondary really is this bad, which everything says it is, I think he could have a big day. And then Henderson hit the IR. So Michelle's going to be popular at 5,800. Yep. It's a pretty bad matchup on the ground for any running back. But if you're passing all over a team and just steadily moving the ball down the field, a game like Mixon's last week is not out of the question. It's not like he popped off any big runs or anything like that, but he still scored on the ground because they're always in scoring position. And he also beat him through the air. So there's nobody there to play behind Michelle. Nobody. I think Funk is going to be the RB2. So this is just Michelle's backfield. He should touch it 25 to 30 times. So even in a bad matchup, 5,800, the volume is going to be there. I think to be different here, you can do, like, you pick Kupp or OBJ is going to be different no matter what. But you play Michelle with them. And like you said, come back with Andrews or, some form of that.
Yeah, I mean, if you game scripted or believe that Stafford could and will spread it out, I think it brings him into play for the reasons you talked about for sure. If you think the majority of it goes through Kupp, then you could take the route of what I said. You could just play Kupp and go to a cheaper quarterback. But if you do think he can spread it out and maybe, a Beckham, Van Jefferson, Higbee even. I think Higbee's back. They get into the mix, especially for touchdowns. Well, then now, that brings Stafford into play for sure. So I can see both sides of that. I lean the other way, but by Sunday it may be just too obvious. And like you said, if we got low ownership on him, people overthink things. Great matchup. I think once we know more of the clarity of the quarterback for the Ravens, can this team be competitive on the offensive side? As bad as they've been beat up and everything, they've still virtually been in every single game, it seems like. Last week was a little bit, Burrow just caught fire, but, 2-point conversions away from 2 more wins. They're still alive in the playoff race. So kind of see, this will be one Sunday will be interesting to talk about, especially with the big price tag on Cup.
Andrews, too, has averaged, since week 5, he's averaged 10 targets and a touchdown a game. If you got any receiver for 7,400, you'd be all over him. Right. And that's like what we're talking about with Cup. Andrews is doing it at tight end and only for 7,400.
Yeah, and there's a lot of options on the slate at tight end that he may go under the – people may not want to pay up for him with a Gronk there or, Kelsey's going to be there. He's higher than Kelsey. And people kind of – think that's crazy, but he's way outperformed Kelsey, and you still got Kettle there in a big, home favorite, which that's our next game. Texans at 49ers. Texans kind of showing life at times. The Mills show, can he keep it going? 28.5 to 15.5. 49ers 13-point favorites. It appears like Lance will get the start. I'll leave it to you on this one. He's just too cheap for the upside against what we consider a bad defense. I know what we saw last week, but I'm with you. I kind of like Lance Wilson. I don't mind Debo and Kettle if you want to do a mini stack that'll be lower owned. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Mitchell's back practicing a little bit. So, I think if he plays, he'll probably be limited. Him and Wilson will kind of split the carry, so I don't really want to look there. The big news here is the Lance thing. I mean, Jimmy G tried to practice. He was taken out of practice, didn't practice today. Today I'm not sure. Yesterday he did not practice. It's looking like Lance is going to start. Good matchup at home. 4,800 is just too cheap. He's got the rushing upside. They have good matchups all over the place. Their offensive line should be able to manhandle this defense, and that's where I like Lance. They'll be in scoring position quite a bit here. When they get to the goal line, if they call his name, he can run a TD in. There's just a lot of upside here for 4,800. And for people who play cash like me, his ownership will probably be just stupid. I mean, you just kind of plug him in cash and go from there. I think the big cash decider, like we talked about, will be Taylor versus Cup, but we already talked about that. But Lance, you plug him in, play him, don't overthink it. 49er defense at 3,800, I don't mind either. Again, it's a higher price defense, but they should be getting pressure on Mills quite a bit here. And it's a must-win game for the Niners at home. So I like a team when they're at home, back against the wall, coming off a tough loss like that. They had extra time to get ready for this game. They should be ready to go.
No, I agree with all that. I think they'll be fired up, and I don't know if they cover. That's a lot of points in the NFL, but I definitely like the 49ers to win big. Next game, Broncos at Chargers. Chargers 6-point favorites or so, 5.5, 6 points, 25.25, 19.75. This one's pretty easy. I agree. I kind of agree with you. Chargers have been up and down all year. They're still alive. They looked ugly last week. I could go Herbert, Allen. I just think there's a lot better quarterback, wide receiver options, but they'll probably be lower owned. Is a divisional matchup. I don't want any part of the Broncos. I always take a look at Javonte, and he's probably going to be low owned. So we'll see how that works. Especially if Gordon. I just wish Gordon would get out of there, and it'd be like you talked about. Your 80% load. He'd be a great play. I think he's a little banged up, but I can't. That may be me misremembering, but I could go there. But there isn't a lot of I like about this game in general for this slate. Maybe the afternoon slate. When we break it down, I wouldn't mind getting some. Herbert, Allen, running back with Javonte or something like that.
Yeah, I think for the afternoon slates where you'd get it, like you said, because we just saw what Burkhead did to this Charger defense. I mean, they can't stop it, and I think we all agree that Javonte is a huge upgrade over Gordon and Burkhead. So Yeah, I for the main slate, too many guys there. He's too expensive to play on the main slate for what the potential workload he might get. And then Herbert, I just think he's matchup proof. I mean, this is couldn't have played really worse last week against the Texans and still 20 something fantasy points on DraftKings. It's just what he does. At home here, I like it. Williams is back off the COVID list. He's ready to go, so he's got all his targets ready to go. They're all healthy. Eckler's back. I like the Chargers here. Again, the matchup sheet kind of like this game. I just with Locke for the Broncos, I just don't think they'll be able to put up a lot of points. So I don't know. I just stick with the Chargers pass game. We know what they do. So like you said, they'll be lower owned, and I don't know. I don't think it's three max worthy.
Yeah, definitely. Especially ownership driven. I mean, they could have a really good game this week, and a good point about all the weapons being back. I think will make a difference. I probably go a little bit different elsewhere. I mean, he has a top 5 quarterback play for me this week overall, and probably lower owned. So not discrediting him. Like I said, I'd do some mini stacks with them, and then maybe Javonte as a run back. MME flyer for Maine, but he could be a nice piece in the afternoon slate as well. Lions at Seahawks 24.75, 17.75. Seahawks 7-point home favorites. A lot of chatter about what's going to go on with the Seahawks. Their season's done. Who's going to be back next year? Lions still fighting hard no matter what they do. I think Goff is back, which will make a big difference in that side of the ball. St. Brown continues to perform well. Again, afternoon slate, I could have some pieces of this game. Main slate, maybe Penny because of the Lions' run D is so terrible. And I like St. Brown. I think he's, especially with Goff back, that boosts him. I'm not sure I want Wilson or Lockett, although we know the secondary is not great for the Lions, or even DK. But mix and match out of here. I could get some pieces of MME for sure.
Yeah, I read right before we started this that Goff's now doubtful to play. But Boyle, I mean, and St. Brown had the connection last week. It's like they just kept it going. So I don't know what to think there, especially with the weather that you mentioned earlier too. I guess I'd want to check on that. I still have St. Brown listed here. It's hard to ignore what he's been doing. He's been great over the last 4 weeks. And then Penny, I like too, just the volume that he's going to see out of this backfield. If they are winning at home, if there is weather, I think that would boost his chances a little bit to have a big game. And then the Lions defense, I mean, they give up some big pass plays. So, again, if you're MMEing or something like that and you throw Lockett out there, I don't mind that either in this matchup.
No, I agree with that. And especially MME wise, you can definitely take a look at anytime someone's playing against the Lions, they could have a good game. I kind of worry about the mentality of that whole team. That would probably be and then like you said, the weather I mentioned, this is the one that rain, wind, Seattle, sounds like that time of the year. Afternoon slate, though, I don't mind getting some pieces of this. Probably light on the main slate for me. Next game will not take long at all. Panthers at Saints. We talked a little bit before the show on this. Not really nothing here except for maybe either defense, depending on how you think the game plays out.
Yeah, that's the same for me. I don't like anyone here. It sucks because I love Kamara as a player, but he's just buried on this shitty offense. I don't trust either team. With the quarterback situation, I think any of them can get pulled at any time. So yeah, I'm just gonna stay away. We'll keep this one short. I know you're toughing through this, so we'll hurry it up. But I got Saints and Panthers defense. That's it. And
yeah, they're my number 2 and 3 ranked defense right now on the slate on the rankings. So that's exactly where I'd be. Saints will probably be much higher owned. So if you're looking for the leverage and save a little bit of money, I don't mind the Panthers either going there. Both, if I'm doing MMEs, both would be in my pool for sure.
Yeah, we've seen Taysom have, he had the 4-pick game against you guys and stuff. So I mean, there's definite potential there for him to turn the ball over a ton.
And the best for last here, we get my Dallas Cowboys against little Kyler Murray, boomer action, big time game in the slate. I'm not torn who I'm going for. I want the Cowboys to win because I want them to try to get home field advantage if possible. I think Kyler could have a good bounce back. This is a game I do like a lot for DFS, late slate. I think it could turn into a shootout. Cowboys D's been on a hell of a run. I don't know how long that continues. But Micah's just a different, we've seen a lot of clips with LT lately, and I watched that All Madden documentary and seeing him on there and Madden talk about the way LT was. I feel like, obviously, Mr. Madden passed away a couple days ago, but like he would have a Micah Parsons on the All Madden team as a rookie. That's how good he is. And I think Kyler and them could have a good bounce back. I'd actually like Chase a lot. We'll get to him on one of the things we're going to wrap up with, but I like all kinds of pieces here. I can mix and match this game stack many different ways between Dak, CeeDee Lamb, even Gallup, Kirk, Ertz. I'm with you. I think it's a great game and fantasy goodness, as we would call it. Highest game total on the board as well.
Yeah, Connor hasn't practiced yet this week, so Chase Edmonds to me would be just like an awesome play at 5,700. He'd be another guy I would just lock into my cash team and never think twice about it. I really like CeeDee Lamb here too. In a game that's projected to be, high scoring, they play like the first and sixth fastest pace or something like that. So this is could be a fast paced game, scoring on each other. If you had to pick, one receiver on the Cowboys who can have 10 plus targets, I think everyone's answer would be Lamb every single time. So for me, I just love the upside. He's only $500 more than Cooper now, which to me seems a little crazy. Cooper has had weeks where he just absolutely disappears. I just think it's a good bounce back spot for Lamb. He'll be one of my focuses in, making some tournament lineups and 3-max, things like that. I really like him this week. Like you said, you just mix and match. Ertz has seen just an unreal target share for this Cardinals team too since Hopkins went down. So he's another guy, you can try. He's not like a big game breaker. So I don't think the Cowboys are really going to put one guy on him to shut down Ertz. So, and I don't know. And if Kyler's feeling that pressure from Parsons, he could have some quick dump offs to Ertz, Edmonds, things like that. So I think Kyler, Ertz, Edmonds is my favorite side of that. And I just love CeeDee Lamb this week. Just got a big feeling about him.
Yeah, and to be mentioned that this will be a home game for Kyler, homecoming game, played, just 20 minutes, 30 minutes east of the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. In high school, he'll have a lot of family and friends there, no doubt. And he'll be pumped to go out and show off and have a good game and a bounce back. They've been playing like shit. I fully expect him to be there, which excites me for a potential shootout because I think the Cowboys will be able to move the ball. They're getting healthier. Probably the biggest deal is can Dallas contain and stop Kyler? And like you said, we'll utilize a Chase Edmonds out of the backfield, which I think he'll have to because I don't want to say they'll put Micah on him as a spy, but you got to believe that Micah's going to know where Kyler is at all times. And there's not many guys that could chase down a Kyler in the pocket, but Micah will probably give him all he wants this week. I'm excited for the game in general. I think it'll be a great high-scoring game and a back-and-forth deal with, I hope the Cowboys win in late. I'd lean the points with the Cardinals just because I think it's going to come down to a last score type of deal. Definitely want to keep an eye on Connor. I think that I agree with that 100%. I already like Chase. I don't think Connor's going to play, so I'm higher on Chase right now. I hope it doesn't come to that because then I'll kind of have to rethink that situation. We're going to do a little, since I'm not doing the coin flip this week, one pod's enough for me right now to try to get through all of it. So we're going to do a core player week, our favorite stack, sleeper of the week, and then a high-price guy that we want to avoid. I'll start my core of the week, and probably would sum up some of the questions you asked, is Jonathan Taylor. I think he's my favorite play on the whole slate. I think he smashes this week. I don't care who the running back or who the quarterback is. He could see 30 touches easy this week. And like you said, in a spot, in a situation where we don't get that a lot, from any back in the backfield, I don't care about the 9,000. There's enough cheap options around there that I like Jonathan Taylor. Who is yours?
It's Ronald Jones. Just not going to overthink it. So same type thing. I worry about AB being questionable now and Evans coming back off COVID. And it's a game where their front should just destroy the Jets. So I just think Jones in for a big game. And like you said with Taylor, I just don't want to overthink it. It's a great spot. Just take advantage of it.
Favorite stack of the week. I was down to Bengals or Cowboys for me. I'm going to go with the Cowboys. I think it's going to be a great game. I think they're going to have to score. I think you can mix and match in there. The Bengals will be a much lower owned stack. So if you're looking for like a sleeper type stack, that would be where I could go. But I do like the Cowboys as my favorite stack of the week.
I just like the Rams. I can't get away from this Raven defense. The Rams need to win too. I mean, it's just Stafford's looked a little questionable, but I don't think this defense really has anything where they can fluster him. People will be open. Kupp's a great route runner. OBJ is still running these great routes and he's wide open. And then the other thing I want to say about stacks is I think it's a good week to do my. I love the QB running back stack because then you don't necessarily need to be different elsewhere. No one really likes to do that, so it makes your team different off the jump. So the ones like that we just talked about it. Well, I'll save that from. I guess that was. I don't know if they count as a sleeper stack or not with all this kind of spread out so much, but the Kyler Edmonds together, not many people like to do that, and I love it.
Yeah, especially with Kyler because people think he can create on his own, and they just. Some will just won't stack because especially earlier in the year, he was spreading it out so much. Got to think that continues because, without Hopkins there, but Ertz has become a good focus. If Chase is the man this week by himself, he'll be out of the backfield. So having those two in a mini stack or to start a stack would definitely be less owned than what I think most people do, especially on a 14-game slate. Afternoon slate, maybe not. I think this game will be loaded. This will be one that, if you're trying to be different, if you're in this one, you either go all in or get real unique with your builds. Because out of all those games in the afternoon, this will probably be the most popular game stacking for sure. Sleeper of the week for me, and I guess if Connor's out, maybe he boosts up, but I still have him under like 5% owned, and it is Chase. He was my sleeper. My 1B was Devontae Smith. Washington, like we talked about Washington earlier, I think he could have a really big game. PPR type situation. Washington secondary has been giving up a lot of passing yards, and I think that team's flat right now. And so I kind of like he's not going to be 1 or 2% either. But Chase was my pick, and right now I got him sub 4%. We'll see if that boosts up if Connors is ruled out. But I don't have Connors in right now personally. Who's your sleeper?
Yeah, if Edmonds is going to be down there, then that's mine easily. But I did list two other guys. And I mentioned them earlier. One I just mentioned is OBJ. I think you got both these guys sub 4% as of right now as well. No one really likes playing Odell right now. They think it's all Kupp. I just think a 2 TD game is in his realm. So especially in a matchup like this. So and I also think he can catch a long one here. So I just really like Odell. My other one was Parker, who was a close second. Off a 0 catch week, no one's going to want to click that at all. With Waddle chasing a record too, but I think it's a game where Dolphins are going to have to throw. That's how you beat the Titans, and I really like Parker to bounce back to that 8-9 target type of game, and he's always a threat down in the red zone too. So I like Parker a lot,
especially 5,200. No one's really going to go to him. I think that's a solid super play as well. High price guy I'll avoid, and when I say avoid, for me I'll be light on. Because I'm so heavy on Taylor, would be Kupp, just because it's going to be hard to build lineups as of right now. If those two are in there, I still think Kupp will garnish ownership because of the matchup. I don't think he'll be the highest owned, but he'll be up there. Antonio Brown will probably be the highest owned, unless you said, he winds up not making it. But Kupp's one I'll be lighter on when it comes to tournaments.
Mine was maybe just an easy way out here, but I'm not going to play any Kamara. So 7,900. I like both those defenses. Kind of hate the game altogether. I'm just not going to play Kamara. Not interested.
Yeah, I think I'd rather even bounce down to we talked about Mixon earlier, $400 cheaper. Guys like that, much better options than that. Monkey Knife Fight link is in the description. Dollar for dollar match up to $100 with the code GUPS, GUPS. We'll have UFC firing back up, PGA firing back up. I'll be listing my plays for that. My NFL play of the week. I had two thought of. I was going to get your opinion on the second one. My first one is I like Mahomes and Brady over in their passing yards. That's a 3x payout. And then the next one is Taylor over 109 rushing, which I like. And then I was going to ask you, but through the pod, I kind of gathered I liked Reynolds Jones. He's over 75.5 rushing. Do you think he hits that? I know he'll be involved probably both passing and rushing, but I think I would go over there. Or do you think 75 is too much for him?
No, I like the over there because I like last week I was on the under. It was like around 65. And I think I lost whatever it was. I think I lost by like 1 yard. Pissed me right off. But he that was a tough matchup on the ground. Like no one really gives the Panthers a lot of credit. They're tough against running backs. So the Jets are not that. So I just think another 20 plus touches is in his wheelhouse here. And if he's running like he did last week, I think that's definitely something he can do.
Before I wrap it up, any final thoughts for you? Big slate, lots to digest Sunday morning, so make sure you're around if you're going to play this week for sure.
Just to check everything on Saturday and Sunday morning, we talked about a lot of injuries that we got to track and everything. So not only will I update the bottom part, the cash considerations, but I'll update the matchup prep on the top two with updates on how many like the percentage of running back touches I think they'll get out of the backfield and things like that. So make sure you look at everything before you build, and then we'll be in Slack right up until lock like usual.
Like I said, college football all day today and tomorrow. When this posts, you'll probably have an hour to get your lineups in for the 2-game semifinals. Those kicking off at 3:30 Eastern. Monster 14-game slate Sunday, Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football. There is no Thursday Night Football, obviously, this week. And I don't think there's any next week either. I think we're done with that. And I think they're going to flex or something to Monday night based on the playoff potential. We'll cover that. Maybe it's a 2-game. I know they're going to do a 2-game Monday night for the playoffs, but we'll have Week 18 covered. We'll just have to see how they kind of sort that out and how DK has the slate set up. PGA does return Monday. The Tournament of Champions, probably about, I think there's like 40 guys in the field or so. Get our feet wet. Then we have a full field the next week for the Sony Open. So excited to get that back going. Several announcements coming in the next few weeks. Some big news for Gup's Corner and Path, and some things we got going on in the background that's going to make us be able to put some more capital back into it. And you guys help us grow this thing as we head to, kind of our core of the year. NASCAR, PGA, we still got football, prime time for another, 2 months or so, month and a half. Leading up to the Super Bowl. So I'm excited for 2022. I hope you guys have a very blessed New Year's Eve. I will be putting, as I do every year in the GC Warrior Room, an option to hit me up. I will pay for any Uber for any member. I do it every year. I've done it many times because drinking and driving is simply not worth it. I will not be drinking much this year, if any, being sick. Maybe a little hot toddy or something to get the throat going, but no reason to drive. I don't. We got the kiddos. I enjoy hanging out with them on New Year's Eve, so we don't even really go out that often anymore. But if you do, more than married other people out there, if you're a member, I'll post that later and hit me up. I've done it. People have hit me up and I paid for it. It's not a big deal to me at all. I'd rather that than you go drinking and driving out there. So stay safe and have a good New Year's. I'm looking forward to 2022. Hope you have a good night as well, Mr. Ryan. And we'll be back next. I'll be back Monday for the 2022 debut of the Smash Factor. If I get to feeling good, I have a scheduled plan to try to do a kind of season preview show and all that. I'll be doing some giveaways for the Carbon Contest, One and Done, and Carbon Cup. So stay tuned to that next week as well. Have a good evening. Happy New Year, and we will talk to you soon.
Happy New Year.
Recording stopped.